Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Beehive Jumpstart workshop. We're super happy to have you here today. I hope that wherever you're calling in from today or viewing in from today, it finds you well. We are coming to you from, I think we're both in New York, right, Connor? You're in Brooklyn? I'm in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's
Technically,
finally cold.
Tony. Yeah, it's a little chilly now, right around freezing where we were at now. Tony's even in not quite Brooklyn, but he's Upper West Side. He's shaking his head. You guys can't see Tony, but he's a producer on this call. He's kind of our eyes and ears in the sky, the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes. So we got some New York folks coming to you. Let's get in the chat and let's see where people are coming from. Aloha, is that from? We got somebody from Hawaii calling in today. We got more in New York, Hawaii, Ohana for the Hawaii people. You've ever seen Lilo and Stitch?
No, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's like Aloha's played out. Everybody knows Aloha.
That's true.
Nobody says
But
Ohana.
Beehive's about one thing, it's about innovation. No, for real, that's cool. Tampa.
Yep.
Oh, neat. My parents live in Orlando. Got that going. Jorge,
Cool.
Pakistan.
Amazing. So this is really cool. Everybody around the world knows that Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind. And that's a great way to start this call today because this call, this webinar, this workshop, the entire purpose is to make sure that our Beehive family, no one gets left behind. Everybody gets started off on the right foot, and maximizes their potential and maximizes their use of the free trial, maximizes their potential on the platform, and so might actually use that. That was like a little bit of ad lib, a little improv, but uh, I might have to use that again. We'll have to kind of manufacture somebody from Hawaii every time so I can do the bit. But thank you, Eric. Appreciate you calling in today from Hawaii and making that possible. I'm taking a little bit of time just to let people, filter in. We typically see people join a little bit late, but we'll go ahead and get started. Nora, yes, the session is going to be recorded, and Tony's actually going to drop in the chat just in a moment a link where if anybody has any questions, we do a little bit of a Q&A throughout, but also at the end. And so if you guys go to beehive.link/Q&A, I think that link will be in the chat in a minute. You guys can go and drop questions. We will answer questions from the chat as well. Tony's going to be monitoring that, depending on how long Connor stays, with us on this call. We'll call out some questions there as well. But it's really, really helpful to have the Q&A all in one spot. So if you have questions, just drop them there, and we will address those throughout the call. I'm gonna let Connor introduce himself in a minute. We'd love to have them here to introduce themselves. We are obviously very, very happy and humbled and proud that you guys have chosen to start your journey with Beehive, and we want to make sure that you start off on the right foot. So Connor's here, one of our wonderful customer success folks, to make sure that you guys have the absolute best experience. I'll toss it over to him to give an intro.
Yeah, no, howdy everyone. AJ covered it. I joined Beehive almost a year ago now. I'm on the support team. So when you first start, if you haven't joined us yet, I'll be the one handling most, if not all, of your emails that come in. Just to get you all set up in that free 31st days. That was the right order for those days. Right? 341? No, it wasn't. Your free trial. Honestly, I just like really love Beehive. I joined because I thought it was a good platform. I'm a writer, newsletter producer on the side as well. So if you have questions, ask them. We got you. And I've just seen so many people grow and like make it so much more than like a hobby or a side hustle or something. So glad to have you here and can't wait to get into all this.
Amazing. What a great intro. Love that. I love that all of you get the opportunity to work with Connor if you choose to take advantage of that opportunity. One of the best. That's why we have him on this call because just doing amazing work. So to get started, the format for today is going to be I'm going to do a quick overview. I'm going to run you through a version of a Beehive account that's been fully built out, all the bells and whistles, all the little kind of nuanced things that as one of the early employees here at beehiiv, kind of have seen everything, kind of know all the ins and outs. We're going to show kind of a very fully configured version of the beehiiv newsletter deployed through a website. And as we go through those features, we're just going to kind of flag post them in case you're not familiar with all of the different functionality that beehiiv has to offer. And then from there, we're going to jump into the editor and we're going to go through all of the different, kind of the editing experience, really the crown jewel of our platform. We'll go over how to, do all the sending, scheduling, what all the different, differentiations mean between, web posts and email posts. We'll go through getting all of your settings set up within the platform. And Tony, if you will, as I say this, can you go find that list I usually work from? It's like if you search like day one, I think you can probably find it in the growth channel. It's just my little, from my side, it's my agenda that makes sure that I cover everything. Um, but basically, going to go through, how to get set up, how to start sending, and then from there, after the settings, we'll get through specific features. So covering some of the features around audience building, some of the growth features, some of the analytics features, and then closing out, we will cover some of the paid features that are not accessible through the trial, but if you upgrade eventually to a paid plan, you will have access to. So it's a little bit of an agenda signpost of what's to come. With that said, we're going to jump into it. We are incredibly blessed to have the 17, 18 folks that are showing up. This is incredible, great attendance. I think we had about 50 RSVP, so having about 40% show up is really, really incredible. That's really great attendance for webinars. So, and if there's anybody who's watching this after the fact, we're happy to have you here as well. We record all of these, we post them online. If you did RSVP, you will be receiving an email with the recording in a couple days once we get it launched. While you're waiting, we can drop in the chat. There's actually a whole archive of about 40 previous webinars that we've done since September on a whole bunch of different topics, guest panels, workshops, just general subject matter webinars. There's a whole bunch of those. I think Tony can drop that in the chat for you guys to check out. But once the recording is done, we will put the webinar recording in the same kind of portion of our blog, so you know where to find it. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and we will start with the walkthrough. And from time to time, I might pause and jump in and answer some questions. We might go toss it to Connor to flag some things that folks may find challenging, common FAQs type stuff that people we might want to cover. So starting from the top, I told you I was going to go through this overview. This is a publication that I've built out. I've done a little bit of building in it. Built some posts. I've published some posts. I've done some media buying. On basically doing some ads on Instagram to get some subscribers. I'd say this is a pretty good representation of the type of site and the type of publication that you can expect to build with beehiiv. So if I come into here, this was the first one I launched. I'm actually going to go to the latest one because there's probably some learnings I made with some later ones. Here we can see, this is great. We have the ad for beehiiv in here from our ad network, so we can even see that example. So this is the web portion of the newsletter. Once I get into the newsletter, I can actually show you what the email looked like. They look very, very similar, but there are some key differences, but more or less, you'll be able to really get a feel for what this is by seeing this post. So come in, we have the title, byline if you want, we have the social share links, and we get to content. We have the ability to deploy these table of contents so you can have people be able to jump to wherever they want within the post. We support HTML and images and anything that you could want to be able to create really bespoke custom visual experience. So in this case, I took an image of this media player that's linked out to a recording, and so the offer is if you upgrade and become a premium paid subscriber, you get access to listen to the audio version of this newsletter. Obviously, just typical styling, images, links. Here's one of our ads. So was provisioned an ad from our ad network. This was one when we ran a native ad for beehiiv itself. So with one click, I was able to deploy this presented by beehiiv button, as well as this ad. These are all tracked. There's a nice dashboard and report in the back end that I can if I was working with Beehive independently, I could provide them with the report. Um, you keep going. Obviously, columns, again, more of that formatting type support, line breaks, polls. A big part of the experience is being able to collect feedback from your user. So always include at least one, usually a couple different polls to collect some feedback. It helps me design content for the future, helps me collect feedback on the individual editions. If we look at Instagram here, we have very, very robust, rich embeds. We actually just launched support for, I believe we're launching support for Threads and Blue Sky. I don't know if that was part of the announcement yesterday. I know we incorporated Blue Sky as a link, but I think we also launched basically an embed for Blue Sky links within the editor. But here you can see an Instagram one. It looks identical to what you would see anywhere else online. And then we have comment section, keep on reading, all of the typical, experience that you would expect from a web CMS. You can leave comments, you can like, you can share, and of course you can subscribe. So this is pretty good coverage. It's nothing that's necessarily groundbreaking and that you've never seen before, but the entire point is that what you see here was all deployed, with just a couple clicks. It's incredibly fast. You see the site is just super snappy. Very well optimized for search engine discovery, so you can get organic users, finding your content through Google, and so forth. The last thing I'll do before I get into the actual, kind of jumping into the editor and showing how to build an experience like this is I'm going to go through, and I'm going to just quickly cover the subscribe flow experience because this will come back as we go through the features. I want to actually get to the point where I'm explaining how to use them or how to implement them. Um, I'm seeing in my second screen that it looks like there's like a little bit of delay. Am I choppy at all? Just want to make sure I'm better now. Okay, cool. We shouldn't have an issue with the recording, but okay, cool. There must have been some sort of heavy traffic on my side. Okay, cool. If anything comes back, just feel free to ping me, guys. I think Tony will because he's in my ear, but um, perfect. So on the screen, we can see is my email address. We'll hit subscribe. Cool. So the first step after subscribing is this experience of the recommendations. So we have, all right, thank you. Let's see what we can do about that. I'm going to figure out what's going on. Stop sharing.
Yeah, for sure. While EJ goes, hi, I'm Connor, part of the support team. Just if you're joining, hey, I see we just had someone from somewhere down south, Atlanta. Excellent. I'm from Maryland, so I feel like a southerner. Welcome to Beehive. I think what EJ is about to go through is just the setup, kind of your first 30 days. There is an onboarding track that you can follow. Of course, it's all very self-guided as well. Let's go Maryland. Heck yeah. I think some folks, just because I'm in the queue for the newest users, some common stuff that they ask. One big thing is like, how long will it take to get going? Truly setting up your newsletter and sending your first post, pardon me, can happen, I would argue, within the first 20 minutes. It won't be like flashy and fully designed out, of course, because you have to make all those decisions, but you can get up and running, especially if you're trying to build anticipation. It's a great way to go out and be like, something's coming in 27 days. I don't know why I picked that, but
Cool. I am sorry, folks. I am back. Yeah, I don't know 100% what happened, but my browser crashed, but I think I've got things solved. I closed a bunch of different programs, so um, sorry about that delay, guys. There's something always happens, but we're gonna get right back on track and better than ever. I'm gonna just quickly organize my screens real quick. I gotta pull this one out. There we go. Move this to my other screen, and we should be golden. All right. I've now, because I just rejoined, my timer restarted, Tony. So you'll have to give me time checks, just because I won't be able to see for myself what the time checks are. Um, but apologies, team. Thank you for sticking with me. Um, could use a little bit of the Ohana grace, working through this. So uh, there we go. We're going to share the screen back again, and we're going to pick up right where we left off. So, and then we'll see if this works because I reopened. I'm hoping that this subscribe flow will continue where we left off. But essentially, I subscribed to the newsletter with my email. So the next thing, if you have this configured, and we'll go through how to configure it, but once you sign up, you can provide users with an experience to subscribe to other newsletters that you recommend. So in this case, there's two types of recommendations here. Up top, you can see the ones that are denoted by sponsored. Those are what we call boosts, which are paid. So these different publications say, I will pay, a dollar, 80 cents, $2, whatever it is, for every subscriber that you pass over to me, that you recommend to me. Down below, these that don't have the sponsored icon, these are all organic recommendations. So this newsletter is written by a very, very early user of beehiiv who invited me to grab a drink when I was living in Maryland, and we ended up becoming, offline IRL friends. And so I recommend his newsletter right here. And so, and then Zillow Gone Wild is just a really cool newsletter. I love like seeing all like the crazy opulent houses. So I'm, genuinely organically recommending these ones down below. And these are paid recommendations. Now, if I were to select any of these as a subscriber, it's going to automatically subscribe me to any ones that I select. So I can do select all, and I'll be subscribed to all, was it 6? If I do some of them, I'll only be subscribed to some of them, and anything in between. So I don't commit fraud and get yelled at by our Boosts ad team. I'm not going to, subscribe to all of these for the 10th time because I do this every time I go through a demo. So I'm going to just hit maybe later. And that should take me to the next step of the subscribe flow, which it has. So I have this welcome survey that I use to understand more about the subscribers who are signing up to this publication. And so the first step, I can collect a first name. This will save the name into what we call custom fields. It's just kind of the CRM that's attached to our platform. So you can access and use that name or use that information in personalization of your newsletters. Next is some identification. This is more for myself so that I can share with advertisers if I ever wanted to sell advertising space. It's very valuable to say my readership is 75% women, 25% men, whatever that ends up being. And then where's your dream destination, wedding destination? This helps you basically, dream vacation destination. This helps you, it helps me in this case understand where I might do more content around. So like where I might do an article around some sort of, destination, expensive destination. So by collecting this information, I now know a little bit more about my users. I can personalize the emails. I can provide a better product is the punchline. Next, we hit continue. I've set up this very basic paid subscription portion of the newsletter. So by default, people can keep the current plan. However, if they want to get the ad-free reading experience or start a trial and pay for the year and get a little bit of savings, they can choose to do these as well. So because this is a 7-day free trial, all you have to do is enter your email. I've said that you can enter the email for the no credit card required experience. Or you can get started right away by entering the credit card. If you access this from a Safari browser or whether on desktop or phone, we actually integrate with Apple Pay. So if I use Arc, but if I was using Safari, this would, because I've set it up I've checked a box in the beehiiv side, this would show up with an Apple Pay option, which is really, really helpful for people who are on those devices, makes the checkout experience just a bit smoother. So for now, we're gonna, continue as a free user and just continue on the journey. I actually do have multiple publications on my beehiiv account. So I have the Vacation Voyeur, but I also have this other newsletter called The Fit, which is like a fashion newsletter. I have this call to action where people can read it. But because it's another newsletter that I run, I can recommend this. There's a screen where I can just have all of the other newsletters that I operate, recommended at one time. Sometimes users want that if you run kind of bunch of different, like, you run a news site where it's like AI news and politics and, business or whatever. You might have news, but there's kind of similar categories. alternately, these are just lifestyle things. So I have a vacation one about like fancy vacations and a men's lifestyle. That may just appeal to a certain person. They may want to subscribe to both. So it's really flexible. None of this is required. Also, you can turn this on, you can turn it off, you can customize it however you like. Just here to show you kind of what's possible. So select all, deselect all, and so from here, I've completed the sign up flow, and I'm now back on the main page. As a new subscriber, I've received a lot of information from, I've had a really interesting kind of interactive experience for one. Two, there's been a bit of value add. I've been able to subscribe to other newsletters that may be valuable to me, that may provide some sort of value to my life. I've gotten to, provide a little bit of information and gotten to know Vacation Voyeur a little bit more. And, obviously now I'm aware that there's a paid version of this product. So as I'm browsing, as I'm receiving emails in the future, I do know that if I want to upgrade maybe for an ad-free experience or that version with the audio, that is an option, and that will certainly help conversion rates down the road. So from here, I'm going to jump into the editor, and we're going to see kind of how this magic happens. So if I come into the beehiiv account, if I go to, I'm going to actually go to the homepage first. This is your dashboard when it shows up. This is going to be very similar to what you see as a new beehiiv user. Some of the numbers may be empty, but as you start to see subscribers come through, you'll be able to get a little bit more data. You have some of your quick links over here to the side, your chart of subscriber growth. So if I pull this back 12 months, you can see, grew very quickly, and they've kind of just like slowly been grabbing subscribers since then. I can see where my subscribers have come from. So people who have come via Magic Link or the referral program versus coming from paid from Instagram or Facebook or Meta generally. If I jump into the audience tab, I can see a chart of my subscribers, and again, I can get a little bit of a deeper dive into those acquisition sources if you're into marketing and you're kind of monitoring that really, really closely. On the engagement tab, it's going to show me my top posts and like how they've done. So when I had 11 subscribers, I sent this out and got a 90% open rate. It's pretty decent. We'll see if we can maintain that, and clearly I did not maintain that as I sent larger ones to larger amounts of users. And then lastly, we have this monetization view where you can see either your paid subscription revenue, your boost revenue, and then coming soon is a view to incorporate the ads revenue that you may make from the platform. So with that quick introduction to the dashboard, we'll jump into posts. I'm going to jump into, let's just use the same one that we did before, the one that I showed you the example of on the web. And this, I'm getting this error because this is ugly. We should grab a screenshot of this and make sure that dev takes care of this. I think it's I think it's the ad asset is no longer available that I had here. I've seen that before. So we'll just pass that on to dev and we'll get them to remove that. But basically, we come in here and again, this is going to be like a fully built out post, but we're going to walk through all the different parts of it so you can see kind of how it gets going. If I go to here to preview, we already saw the web version, but I want to show you real quick the email version. Slightly different. For email, I remove the headline and the subtitle. I remove the byline and those social share links. And so with my aesthetic, I really want kind of that logo followed by just the presented by image. You can see in the inbox, this is what it's going to look like up here, Vacation Voyeur. This is the subject line and preview text. And as I scroll down, because I'm publishing it to both web and email, there's a read online link. And as I scroll down, you can see how this design fits kind of compared to the site. So we'll get into a little bit later how you change the design for the web and for the newsletters, but you can see it very, very similar looking. I think the one big difference is going to be my call to action down here for the referral program. Because referral programs require us to know who the recipient is, we don't show those referral programs by default on the web because, of course, it's just random, anonymous users. We wouldn't be able to have, like, there's this placeholder that identifies each user as a unique user. And so if they're anonymous, we don't have their information. The other difference here is that I actually have recommendations that, again, because these recommendations are done with one click, because we know who the subscriber is, they don't show on web, but they do show up in email. So I have these recommendation widgets embedded into the email. so that I can make recommendations as we go, rather than just when users sign up. So if I add a recommendation later, I can still do that. Um, and so, yeah, I think the rest of it is exactly the same as it's on the web. We have the footer down here. Obviously, there's no kind of similar, akin, related footer on the website, but now you see what it's looked like in both places. So how do we actually build that? So getting started, there's by default, if we hop into a new post and blank draft, you see this. You're probably familiar with this if you've done exploring at all in the platform, but uh, there's a couple different parts we're going to go through. So as soon as this goes away, we have the thumbnail, and this is going to be what shows up across the web, kind of in those pictures on the site. If you share on social, the social image is going to pull from the thumbnail. So it's important to create something that's related to the article, something that looks a little bit branded. People do it both ways. Some people make the thumbnail specific to the article. Sometimes they add text to it. It's really up to you, but there's a lot of examples out there of how people might do thumbnails. From there, we have some content tags set. So this is how users can navigate and find content. So you can see some of the content tags I've applied here. If I click on any of these, we'll click on Asia, for example, it's going to show me a filtered view of just the articles that are tagged with that content tag. So it's a nice way to be able to provide some filtering if you have a very large archive. From here, we have the title, probably pretty self-explanatory, but the title is going to be what shows up on the web as the title. Same thing with the subtitle. And by default, these are actually going to get pulled in to be the subject line and email. So if you're writing specifically for email, you can think about this less of like the title and more of the subject line. You can also set them independently. They don't have to be the same, so you're not tied to one or the other. It's just how we've visualized it here. And then lastly, we have authors. So say you're working with a team, you're working with a ghostwriter or a freelancer, you can come in here and either add other authors that are on the account, or if you don't want them to, maybe they wrote it in a Google Doc and you're copying and pasting it over and they're not part of your beehiiv account, you can add guest authors that show up right here. Before we keep moving on, you'll see these little eyeball icons. These are how we denote what is shown in different scenarios. And so again, kind of lending to the flexibility, we allow you to really minutely modify the visibility of everything in this editor. So in this case, for thumbnails, some people may want to show this at the top of the web post, and maybe some users don't. So in this case, I have it turned off, but if I wanted to show it at the top of the web post, I would. I could do that. And so again, if we look at this like this, I include the image down below right here. So I have it hidden on web, but if you wanted to show it, if you have a different design, you can show it. Same thing with this. If we go to the visibility setting, you can show in the email, you can hide in the email. If I were to show it, just to give you an idea of what it looks like, I go to email. It's going to show up below this logo. I'll show you how to set this logo for email, but it's going to show up right here. So, it doesn't look terrible. There's certainly something that a lot of people do include in email. It's just for the aesthetic that I was going for, I decided to hide it. But the same thing goes for all of the rest of these. Some people like to hide and show and whatnot. So from there, the next part is really just getting into the writing and the content production. So when you get into the editor, you can, of course, just start typing if you'd like. But really, the most powerful part is this widget palette, so to speak. It's this menu where you can see all of the different widgets and all of the different formatting that we provide. And so we've split this up into kind of the basic elements, headings, embeds, dynamic tags, and premium features. And so everything here, fairly self-explanatory. I will explain the difference between code blocks and HTML snippets. Basically, if you're writing a newsletter about code or you're trying to share, code in your newsletter that you want users to actually be able to see, you're going to use the code block, and that just does formatting. If you're actually trying to insert code into the actual post of your newsletter, you're going to use an HTML snippet, and that will more or less like execute the code. So if it's HTML, it will render as HTML. Say most of the other things here are pretty self-explanatory. You have columns. You can set up a break so that say you have some content in the post, but you only want people who are subscribed to be able to read the whole thing. You can drop that in. Headings are normal. We showed you guys some of the embeds. You can see the blue sky embed is brand new here. Footnotes, if you're doing more of like an academic writing and you want to, cite your sources at the bottom, you can use footnotes, which are going to deploy the little superscript, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., and insert the links at the end of your post. So add some professionalism to it. And then when we get to the premium features, you can drop advertisements into the editor with one click. You have the AI writer to help, not write for you per se, but if you want to, for example, come in here and this is the AI features. You can have it improve your writing. So this is going to make suggestions around how to make the writing better. And so there's a couple different ways in which we do that. So you can shorten things, extend things, simplify, or change the tone of voice. Alternately, if you want to translate from one language to the next, you can use the AI features to do that. If you just wanted to do a general spell check, that's totally cool too. It's just going to change and fix your grammar and punctuation and whatnot. And then say you hit writer's block in the middle of writing a super fascinating, interesting, high value piece, you can ask it to help you complete the sentence, which is going to just generate the rest of whatever thought you had in the editor at the time. So as we go through, you can see really how I've set these up. We have a heading here. If we highlight, we have like a lot of these formatting settings. We'll get into actually how to set the look and feel of the newsletter in a moment. Setting the general default fonts, the colors, the font sizes and whatnot. That's comes a little bit later. We really bifurcate the process of publishing and design so that when you sit down to write, you're not worried about the design aspect. You're not worried about, okay, what does the spacing look like? What is the, I want this text bigger, I want this text smaller. We've set it up so you set your design more or less just once, and then you don't have to worry about it again. You can go in and just write. When you're ready to see how it looks, you just hit preview. We take what you've written in the editor, we marry it, kind of merge it with the design that you set up. And so you get a very consistent look every time. It's optimized to be lightweight so that it's going to hit inboxes as often as possible. And it's going to look identical across any email platform. So whether users are using Superhuman or Apple or Outlook or Gmail, it's going to look the same. So again, from here we used, this is just a basic header element. I can also come in here and I could, for example, highlight. So if I wanted to, make this yellow, I can do a little highlighting. I think that's a fun feature that I don't see as often, but I think it's something that people could use more. So I can set that color, and that's just highlighted a bit. It's kind of cool. It really brings the eye. And I bring up the design because say there's an example here. Say there's something where I want to really make a piece of content pop, visually, but I don't necessarily want to change the settings globally. I just want something in one place to look a little bit different. I can come here to these settings and I can basically override those general design settings that I set at a very high level. So say this is just regular body text, but I want to make this vacation voyeur for whatever reason. I want to make it extra large, and I want to make it, I want to make it yellow. That looks bad. I want to make it pink. It also looks bad. And I want to change the font. Jumps back up. I want to change the font to like Helvetica, and that's going to do that there. But the punchline here is that this is, these settings are not necessarily meant for you to do all that fine tuning as you draft your newsletter. These are meant to be very kind of, kind of the finishing touches that you use sparingly to really kind of add that just a little bit of, the trim, the gilting around the edges to really make it pop. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. Superscript, subscript. You can make this look like code. You can add a link. With this one, bulleted lists, block quotes. You can change your block quote styles like that. And then, you can change the justification. So, all pretty normal when it comes to text editors. The one thing I will say that is a little bit more of a kind of pro move. Once you kind of graduate, you're very familiar with using the editor. Within these symbols, we have this means menu. The 6 buttons, these 6 dots are a menu. What you can do with this, there's a couple things. So right now we have this bit of content. So this image with this text and this header. These are all grouped to what we call a section, which just means the content lives inside the section. If I want to move all 3 at the same time, for example, I can just drag this and it's going to move all of that content together. What that also means is that I can set details of everything that sits inside the section with this menu. So for example, if I want to add a border around the section, I can do that. If I want to set specific spacing above and beyond, above and below, I can do different spacing. I can get really, really granular with it, which is why it's kind of more of an advanced thing. But you can really get really, really minute, and that's why, compared to when I first started with Beehive, as the first employee, there used to be sometimes people come with us with designs where we couldn't replicate. We could get really close, but we couldn't quite replicate. It's probably been a year and a half or so since anyone has come to me with a design that we haven't been able to really replicate one to one without any kind of custom code. It's really quite impressive what our development team has done to really make this one of the most flexible visual editors in the world. And so, say I want to change the background color, I can do that here. I can change the text color of all of the text within a setting, within a section and whatnot. I can also, similar to those headings and whatnot, I can change the visibility. And so there's a bunch more settings here than we have with the default ones. I can choose to show only on the website, only in email, neither. I don't know what actually happens if I choose neither website or email. Oh, I mean, this is not for the entire message. So this is going to just not show it, except for some of these other examples. But free subscribers, paid subscribers, subscribers with a certain referral count. If I have multiple tiers of my paid subscription, I can also make content available to only the gold tier premium users, and maybe keep it hidden from anybody who's below the gold tier, and so on. If I just realize I did a bunch of changes and I want to just say, put it back like normal, I can hit the reset button. You can duplicate, which is just going to make an exact copy. You can copy it to clipboard, which then lets you paste it anywhere else. And then, of course, if you want to just undo the grouping and creating the section, you can hit the ungroup button and it'll do that. So I like to spend a lot of time with these features because there's so many that I think sometimes people, if they kind of have a kind of a strict idea of what they're trying to build, may not necessarily experience all of the different things. But there's some really, really cool stuff that really just creates fun, engaging, robust experiences for subscribers that make a difference, that make an impression, when they review, your email in the inbox. So before we move away from the editor, I want to kind of take a look at a couple of the meta things around the editor, and then we'll move on. So we already looked at kind of these menus over here. I'm going to just go up here to this menu real quick. So if you want to leave comments, you can highlight anything, and you can do, I think it's Command-Shift-M. Nope, it's Command-M. Command-Shift-M. No. All right, I forget I'll have to look up what the short code is. Either way, you can highlight, oh, and that's the title, that's why it wasn't working. You can highlight anything here and you can leave a comment. So I can be like, at Tony, he's not a member of this newsletter, but if he was, his name would pop up and, I can say, hey, Tony, can you revise this? And I'll just do that. So now it kind of creates this comment just like Google Docs. The entire editor experience is also collaborative, just like a Google Doc. So you could have 3, 4, 5. We've had 20 people in a doc at the same time. And so they show up here. You can just see my initials, the username, and so forth right here. But when I've revised it, for example, I can just hit the plus button and it's going to make it disappear. If I want to review comments, I have this whole feed up here, open, resolved, yours, mine, anyone's. So it makes it really, really valuable for teams that are doing drafting. I don't know how relevant that is to some folks here, but for the right folks who are working with the team, it's pretty invaluable. Say you try to do something, kind of creative and you kind of go off the wall and you're like, wait a second, I actually hate this. I want to go back to a previous version. We have this really, really cool version history tool where just like, again, like Google Docs, you can go in here and you can revert back to a version that occurred in the past. It's just going to reset everything to that point in the past. If you want to save, so say you come up with a template, an outline, what have you, and you want to save it so that you don't have to start from scratch each time, we have a really cool templating feature. So you can save the template and name it whatever. It's just going to take everything that's in your editor and it's going to save it as a template. So if you go and you create a draft from a template, it's going to give you that starting place so you don't have to start from scratch every time. And lastly, if you're going through here and you say, okay, I do want to make a global change to the look and feel of the newsletter, say just something's just not hitting you right, you can get to the newsletter editor by hitting this, these settings buttons right here. So I think that really covers everything within the editor. Um, and we're ready to move on to sending and kind of that next step around the sending features. So, say I've written the entire newsletter. I want to look at see how it looks. I can see how it looks on web, email, desktop, and mobile. I can also go in here and see what it's going to look like for a specific user. So I believe I use some personalization. Maybe I don't, but I should. So I can come down here and yeah, I guess with this one, maybe I deleted it in one of these demos. But I come in here and say first name pipe, just a straight up pipe button. I can say friend. So friend is going to say that that's going to be the default. But when we talk about personalization, I can use this. This is the custom field, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I created a custom field for first name. If you'll remember, I'm collecting that during the survey. And so if I have that data for a user, it's going to put their first name in. And if it doesn't, it's going to default to friend. So when I go to preview, we can see here, just let it update. There we go. It should be fine. Oh, come now. There we go. Maybe it's because I'm getting that error. Let's do it over in a new post. I really should just delete those ads because they seem to be messing things up. Oh, still messing things up. Okay. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think that's pretty good time actually, because then from here things pick up in terms of speed for a little bit. Okay, cool. So we have some content right here. This is you access custom fields by using this like curly brace notation. Um, and if I go to preview, we're gonna see, okay, now because it's just a random free subscriber, it says friend. And if I go and if I type in, for example, my own email address that I signed up with the other day, where I did collect the first name, it's going to replace it with EJ. So it's a really simple way to provide some personalization and customization. But you can access that from this dropdown. You can see how it's going to look as a premium user, as a non-subscriber, and even a specific subscriber when you get to that point. And the last thing about drafts is, once we get in here, from this drop down, you actually have a couple different options. Say you're ready to send, you're ready to, press go. You want to send yourself a test email, see how it's going to look. You can do that same kind of simulation of users. So it's going to just insert whatever personalization for this specific subscriber, so you can see how it's going to look to a real subscriber. You can send it to yourself. You can send it to anybody who may be interested. You can also share this link, which is going to send them a link to view the web version before it's published. So a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can share drafts and do the QA and review before things go live. So from there, we're ready to publish. We've done the previews. We're going to hit next, and it's going to take us to our audience selection. So we have this is where a lot of the magic happens in terms of managing your different lists, sending messages to the right audience at the right time. By default, we recommend that if you're going to publish your newsletter to email, there's not really usually a good reason to not also publish to the web. And that web version just allows you to get more exposure. You can share it on social media. It can be discovered by organic search engines. There's a lot of benefits to publishing to web. And as we've shown, we have a very, very robust, very kind of tech-enabled web experience to kind of put that content out there in the best light possible. But say you don't, say you want to only send it to your or to your audience, your email subscribers, you would basically just make sure all of these are checked. Say you only want to send it to your paid subscribers, you can check to only the paid folks, and so forth. If you want to send it to only free, it's very simple, just check boxes of like what these audiences are. From here, we also have often, people say, okay, I want to send it to a specific group of subscribers. In this case, maybe I want to only send it to my Instagram subscribers. So in this case, I'm going to uncheck all of these. And in terms of including the segment, I'm going to include just the Instagram subscribers. Or maybe I say I want to send it to all of my subscribers, but I want to exclude the people I got from paid ads for whatever reason. So I can exclude that list. And that list comes from our segmentation tool, which we'll cover in a little bit. But if you want to manage them, you can cover it right here. But essentially, segmentations allows you to define criteria that make up an audience, and then users basically fit within that sub list of your main list, and you can include and exclude them. one important thing to note is that if there's a conflict, if somebody is in two different segments, we respect the exclude kind of as the primary versus include. So that means that like you're never going to accidentally send it to someone you've excluded if they're part of both lists. So that's kind of the safer way. There's really no way around it. It's like we had to choose one. It's like, do we respect the include over the exclude? Because then maybe somebody gets a message they're not supposed to get. We erred on the side of caution. Next, because we've set this to, we're going to set it to email and web. We're going to have two different options in terms of some slight customization. So in the email section, this is where we talked about the subject line. So you can set a subject line. You can have it match the one that's in the editor, or you can create your own. You can set up A/B tests of that subject line here. If you want the social and the likes and comments to show up, you can check these. And so if I go back to the email here, now that I've checked those, I'm going to have these on the email. And so that actually doesn't look too bad. Maybe I should do that, But those are the email settings. Web specific settings are things like the URL. So you can have the URL by default, again, is going to take that title. It's going to make it URL safe, but you can change it to be whatever you want. You can change the thumbnail here. SEO, if you're a marketer and you're kind of into SEO, you can really, really minutely control the different signals that you're giving to those search engines to really optimize your content for discovery. By default, this is just fine. You don't necessarily have to worry about things, but if you know what you're doing or if you want to, you're learning how to do SEO, you can do that. And then if there's something where you want the SEO or the search engine headline to be something that's like optimized for discovery, but you want your social media headline to be something maybe a little bit more intriguing, something a little bit more clickbaity, you can specifically define your social media headline and description to be separate from the one that's the general discovery web one. And from there, we're going to go to review. And this is, how we get ready to send. Once we hit schedule, we can either choose to publish at a later time where we get this, calendar, or you can publish now, and it's going to send to everybody at the same time, at the time when you schedule it. So that's the workflow for going through and creating your email. We're gonna go back to the dashboard real quick. So we've kind of gone through that process. We've gotten ready to send our first post. If we go up here, there's a couple things that are worth looking at. One is the notifications tab. This is where you're going to get things like ad opportunities and different life cycle notifications that you should know about based on features within the platform. We recently released this calendar view. So if you want to see if you have like a bunch of posts that are scheduled in the future, you can come here and see when you have ads scheduled, when you have posts scheduled. We plan on using including a lot more features in the future that would take advantage of this, calendar idea. So keep an eye on that. And then if you want to view what the site looks like, we have this easy to reach, button here to take you to your main site. So moving into kind of the initial configuration of your settings to make sure that everything's tip-top shape. First, you can come in here and you can see there's one way to access like personal settings. You can come through this menu. Account security is stuff like your password and whatnot. You can access our knowledge base and all of our help resources, and then log out. Where you're probably going to spend more time is in the bottom corner where these settings are, and this is where we get into the actual like look and feel and naming and whatnot of your newsletter. So, quick 1,000-foot view. The way that our architecture, when you create an account, works is that you're going to have a workspace that gets created, and the workspace is kind of like the company, and then that workspace is going to own the newsletter that gets created, or the publication as we call it, that gets created when you create the account. So you can think of a workspace as like a parent to the specific newsletter, and we do that because our platform allows you to have multiple newsletters. So say you wanted to start a couple different newsletters, you have your company, and then that company basically, or that workspace, can have a bunch of different newsletters inside of it. And that helps with permissions. So you can have a team where some team members may only have access to the publication, but not like the billing information, and so forth. And so we'll start with the workspace settings. You're going to set the workspace name. I use the company name instead of global. Footer address is company address. This is my address. Don't stalk me. Publications. These are the publications that this workspace owns. You can manage them. If I wanted to delete them, change them, add a new one, I can do that here. When it comes to adding team members, very easy to do. come in here, add an email. I can show whether I want them to have access to the workspace or just the publication, and I can choose the level of access, so either contributor, member, or admin. So it's kind of like 6 different classifications. Um, and then I hit send, and they get a link to join. Billing and plan is going to look a little bit different than your guys' view, but when it's time to upgrade, this is where you're going to go to modify your plan. Because I am on a custom like internal employee plan, that's not going to show up here, but this is going to be like a upgrade, change your plan button. Once you click this, there's a pop-up that allows you to choose the different tiers, the different plans that fit whatever your level of subscriber needs are. And if you ever need to update your billing information, like the actual like address and whatnot, you can click here. Lastly, for workspace settings, if you are a little bit more technical, if you're a developer, or you hire a developer, this is going to be where your API settings live. So you can grab an API key here. You can also grab your publication IDs, which are important for API usage. Depending on the publication, you can choose the publication, grab the API key. Everything nowadays uses the version 2. We'll probably deprecate this pretty soon, but that's where you would find that. Moving now into like the fun stuff, this is now where we get into the actual newsletter or publication specific details. So in this case, the name of my workspace is the name of like the LLC that I have for freelancing. This is the publication name for the actual newsletter that we've been looking at. So Vacation Voyeur, I have the description here. I've uploaded the logo. This is the default thumbnail. So if I don't include a thumbnail on a post, it's going to just drop this one by default. Publication tags allow us to help categorize and organize and understand like what your newsletter is about. It's incredibly valuable for our ad network to be able to provision and provide ad opportunities. It's also very, very important for our recommendations feature, which we'll get into in a little bit, to be able to understand and tell you kind of which other newsletters may be interesting or which ones may be related to you. If you want to change your newsletter language, like the language that we generate in things like buttons and communications, we are localized to these languages here. So Portuguese, Italian, French, Spanish, English, and German. Of course, in the editor, you can write in whatever language you want. This just pertains to the kind of default, like, life cycle messages that we're going to send to users as they, go through like things like confirming their subscription and whatnot. Default time zone, pretty self-explanatory, and then your default subscribe button text. That's just going to be the call to action. If you, for example, are running a newsletter for, perhaps a business, you're running like an investor updates type of thing, you can actually set to be a private publication. This is going to mean that only people who are a part of your subscriber list can see the content that you publish. If you want to make it something where you're providing approval, where people can request to get access to it, something like a private investor focused newsletter could be a good example, or a PTA or something like that. You can turn on the private publication and require subscriber approval. So that would mean people could enter their email for consideration. They're not going to be able to see anything or receive any messages until they are manually approved to join the list. If you're on our max plan, which is our highest paid tier, short of our enterprise plans, we also provide the option to remove the branding links that are at the bottom of every email and website. If you're a marketer, UTM analytics are an incredibly valuable and important part of tracking and understanding how users are interacting with your content that you're posting on social media and elsewhere. So if you want to change this, you can. By default, we show what we're going to add to all of the web links, but if you have like a custom naming taxonomy or convention that you use, you can customize, or even turn off the UTM tagging down here. For email information, you may want to change the sender name, which is going to be the publication name by default. So this is going to be what it shows up in the inbox as. So it's going to, in this case, when some people receive the email, it's going to say it's from Vacation Voyeur. This is the reply to address. So if they hit the reply button, that's what they're going to get. Footer details. So the copyright address is just pulling from my default. And then we have these preset emails. So every account comes with these regardless of the plan tier. And the one that's kind of most used is this welcome email. So regardless of whether you choose to continue with our paid plans and you forgo access to automations, everybody has access to this welcome email that gets triggered when somebody subscribes to their newsletter. So you can configure it here. Very simple editor, similar to the other experience. Set the subject line, set the preview text, And when someone signs up to your newsletter, they're going to get that welcome email. I have mine set up through automations, which is why it's not configured there. One of the best practices that we recommend is using double opt-ins to allow users to confirm their subscriptions actively, which means when somebody subscribes to your newsletter, they're going to get an email that says, we saw that you wanted to join this newsletter. Are you sure you want to join? Click this button to confirm your subscription. Not required, but definitely a best practice to ensure a clean, engaged list. If you do turn that on, you do it. You do it by doing that, and then you can also basically change that email, so you can confirm how that looks. I should probably edit that to remove that second link. From there, we also have a smart nudge feature. So some people, maybe they are super busy, they miss that initial email to confirm their subscription. Smart nudge is a feature that 48 hours after they subscribe, if they have not confirmed their subscription, we will send them a quick little nudge that says, hey, we sent you this message. Would you like to subscribe? And that's that. If you're coming and joining us from another platform, if you're coming from one of these platforms, we offer a one-click content import to make it as easy as possible for you to switch. So you just select whichever platform you're coming from this list and follow the on-screen instructions. Bringing over subscribers is just as easy. You get an export from whatever platform you're using in a CSV format. So usually that's pretty easy to find. And then you just click the import button, choose a file, and go from there. You can map your custom data. So if you have like first name, last name, whatever data you're bringing over from the other platform, we make it very easy to map those fields so you can come and bring that data and make sure that the data remains clean between both your old and new. We also, it's very important to us to have an open, flexible platform and part of that includes ensuring that our data is portable. So there's nothing about the platform that we restrict if you ever want to leave. So for whatever reason, if you ever do decide to leave the platform, you can come in here and export all of your data. For the paid side of things, you use your own Stripe account in order to set up the paid stuff. So you always have your customer data. There's nothing we do to keep that or keep that from you. In terms of post data, subscriber data, you own all of that and can export this at any time. So completely open, completely portable. And then big question we get a lot, setting up custom domains. So you want to have, rather than like vacationvoyeur.beehiiv.com, you want it to be vacationvoyeur.com. We make it really simple to set up these custom domains. We actually partnered with a company called Entry. We launched a feature about a month ago where once you enter the domain information for the site that you want to connect, the custom domain you want to connect, this partner company basically sets all of the DNS records. So you don't have to go into your hosting service. You don't have to mess with any of those records. We can deploy them all automatically. The one exception is the DMARC record, which is incredibly important. We do flag that you have to set that manually, and we have some resources on doing so that Tony will drop in the chat. We have a tool that allows you to automatically, basically gives you the record to create for your DNS service. But DMARC, the reason why we don't deploy it is because it's very sensitive in terms of it basically tells email inboxes what to do if they detect that there's emails coming from an unauthorized source. So it prevents spoofing. But the reason why that's important is because there's a couple different settings. You can say, hey, don't do anything, just let me know, which isn't going to do anything. It's just going to tell you, hey, someone's spoofing your email. And the worst case is the strictest case is basically if it doesn't have this DMARC record or if it's not correct, reject it and send it to spam. And so the issue is if it's misconfigured, the punchline is if it's misconfigured, you can basically start having all of your messages go to spam. And so we didn't want to do that automatically for you. We let you send or set whatever you want. We walk you through what those different settings mean, but it's just a little presumptive of us to automatically kind of lock down with the highest security setting. Probably didn't do a great job explaining that. The article that I'm sure Tony dropped does a much better job of explaining. I am not on our deliverability and compliance team. So from there, webhooks, again, if you're a more technical type person, webhooks are really valuable for pinging other services outside of beehiiv. It kind of works in conjunction with our API. So between our API and webhooks, you can integrate with 10,000 different tools across the world. We have native integrations with Zapier and Make that allow you to access and use webhooks and the API without having any kind of technical experience. So you can really seamlessly connect Beehive across any tech stack that you may be using, either personally or across your company. Once you start setting up paid features, this is where we get into these payment accounts and RSS feeds. You can generate an RSS feed of your newsletter, and then if you are on our Max plan, we allow the ability to ingest RSS from external sources, so you can basically populate the content of your email with content from external sources. And maybe that's something uh, that Tony can drop a little bit more information about. So at this point, we've gone through settings, we've gone through the basically sending flow of how you set up all of your information before you hit send, and we've gone into the editor. So kind of coming down the home stretch, I'm going to really quickly go through. I'm going to take a moment to pause and answer some questions before I do continue. But the last third of this presentation is really going to be going through the different features, whether it's subscribers and kind of the data that we provide there, automations, polls, surveys, subscribe forms, our growth tools over here, referral program recommendations, magic links, boosts, and monetization features. So I don't kind of go into like how to fully like set up and configure all of those. It's more, hey, this is what it can do, this is what it does. And we have resources. We have tons of documentation and videos on how to actually do the ins and outs, but it's more about showing you what's available and any pro tips. Before I jump into that, I want to jump into the question. Maybe Tony can whisper in my ear. Um, Yeah, so right, we definitely. So the question is, how do we approach accessibility and what tools are out there? So accessibility is something that's very important to us as we go through our development process. All of our the websites and the emails have all of the recommended like ARIA tags and whatnot that are compatible with screen readers. What we don't enforce color contrast, but we are certainly compatible with any color contrast checker. And so our tools allow you 100% control over that design. So if accessibility is something that is important to you as it is to us, you can change any of those colors to make sure that that color contrast matches. There's nothing that we wouldn't be able to change that would impact that. And so between the kind of flexibility with customization, as well as kind of the technical implementation of our sites, you should be able to pass any kind of accessibility check. We also, as far as like other settings around privacy, like GDPR, usually I cover this a little bit later, but if you come into the the website builder and then settings, we do have a section here around where you can deploy the cookie banner that prevents any tracking scripts from loading before users give consent. And you can also check this to provide a custom terms of service and privacy policy. The impact of setting these settings up is that when you're also going to have like a little checkbox underneath your subscribe box to say like I consent to share my email. So if you are in the EU, if you're in California or you fall otherwise under those kinds of privacy conventions, you can very easily set that up and be compliant. Tony, any other questions I should cover before I continue on? Mm. Yep. So I'm going to toss this one to Connor. So Connor, somebody's saying that when they created their Beehive site, they created a new account. They go to the homepage. They just go to the domain, and it redirects them to the subscribe page. What's going on there? That seems weird.
For
What's the issue?
sure. This is one of the most common questions we get. I'm working on putting it more in the documentation. So our sites are going to redirect your homepage or any like slugline page back to your sign up page unless you have a post published live. So we just don't want folks to go to your homepage and have it be like, what is happening? So instead, they redirect you to the sign up page, lets you build some anticipation, keeps everything front and center, letting all your potential audience know what you're going to offer. And then once you publish that first post, the homepage will become like live for everyone. You could still make all the edits and stuff, but it'll be redirected until you make that first post live.
Perfect. Yep. Great. great description, and just to visualize it here, if you can imagine like none of these posts, if you just
Yeah,
had like this section and then like the byline and whatnot and featured posts and like nothing under featured post and archive and maybe the search box and maybe none of these content tags and then just nothing under the archive, it's just not a good experience. There's no value to that experience. And so um, before uh, before it's just going to redirect to, if you haven't experienced this issue before you post your first web post, it's going to just redirect users back to this subscribe page, so that you can get subscribers. It's obviously not going to say let me read it first if you have no posts. That's the other difference, is this is going to be hidden.
it's like going
uh,
to a store with empty shelves. So we want to make
yeah,
sure you can do that.
exactly. Yep, they're going to keep those doors locked until they get the shelves stocked. But you know, wonder how much deeper we could go with that metaphor. Let's not find out today. Okay. Mm. Got it. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to me at ej@beehiiv.com. We can forward you to the right person. I don't know, Connor, if you want to share something. Is there, I guess, from as part of the, if they have access to you, they have it through the app as part of their free trial, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So just inside your Beehive dashboard in the upper right, there's a little button that says help. I would go there. The chatbot's real good, and that's obviously instant. If not, just send in a support ticket. I can absolutely help you get that
Yep.
going.
Cool. Perfect. All right. So and I'm so sorry. This is probably super confusing. Maybe we can edit this in reverse. Both Connor and I could hear the question. Somebody was asking. They had a question about trying to set up a field within their survey form about adding like city or something like that, and they were having a little bit of trouble. So Tony suggested that we maybe to bring them offline and bring them into a support ticket to figure out exactly what the exact needs of that user are. And so that's weird context. Maybe we'll just cut that entirely for the recording. Sorry for the confusion, but you can help you. We can definitely help you out. All right, cool. So going back to this, getting back into the flow of things, we're just gonna walk down this list. And actually, I think I already have this one set up. Yeah, to basically show. So underneath your subscriber view, will show you all of your subscribers. I just do this so that it's just my information here. But you can view subscribers. You can change or set up your custom fields. If you want to have any tags to group different folks within your list, you can set up your tags here. And you can also create your preference center. So a preference center is really valuable if, for example, you have maybe multiple newsletters that are multiple kind of topics under the same newsletter. So say you send out under the same newsletter, a post, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. One Monday post is about tech, Tuesday post is about crypto, Wednesday post is about business. You basically could say, hey, if you don't want to receive all of them, you can opt in to choosing like a business one and only get business, or only get tech and business and not get crypto, etc. But preference centers are really helpful for essentially allowing users to set up preferences around the different types of communications that they want to receive. There's some documentation on how to set that up. It's a little bit more of an advanced use case, but for the folks who need that sort of preference, selection, it's pretty invaluable. So once you get to the subscriber view, you find a subscriber you want to look deeper into. You can click into their account and you can see everything about them. So you can see this initial subscribe date, whether they're a free or premium subscriber, and if they're coming in at a full price or discount. Obviously, the email here, the number of emails they've been delivered, opened, open rate, click-through rate, and so forth. We've actually just launched this verified click-through rate. So this is really exciting. We're the first, as far as we know, the first platform that essentially is doing a very comprehensive sweep and filtering of bot clicks and spam filters. And so most ESPs are just going to report the gross number of clicks and, or gross number of unique clicks that they receive. However, in many cases, a lot of those clicks come from things like spam filters and different types of tools like that are trying to click all of the links in an email to determine whether those links are malicious or safe. And so you generally see a very, very high or kind of elevated click rate because these are not real people clicking the links. They're bots. And so we have a way to filter those out, and we're actually now reporting through this verified clicks number just on the real human people who actually clicked on those links. So you can actually know confidently who is engaging with those emails. Um, Under the subscriber overview, you can choose to view different. I don't know why that reloaded. You can see the different types of posts that users have received. So whether posts or automations or polls, you can see all the different ways in which users have interacted with your newsletter in the past. Underneath this information panel, we have quick links. So if somebody reaches out asking for their referral link, or if you need to view them in Stripe, if you need to manage their subscriber, you want to manage their account, or they need to manage their preferences, they can click this link. We include acquisition details, so it's going to be much more valuable if you're doing like heavily into growth, or if you're into marketing. You can go in here and you can see where they signed up. So in this case, they signed up on the website. They came from by typing in the website directly. This is me, so I just typed in vacationvoyeur.com. My device was desktop, and the URL on which I subscribed was this one. So it was before I set up the custom domain. I subscribed from the main subscribe page. But if I had subscribed from like a post, it would show the post that I would subscribe to. I've obviously completed the welcome survey, so my answers are saved here as these custom fields. I don't know if I've set up any tags. I haven't set up any tags for this publication, and there are no automations that I'm currently enrolled in. And we'll get into automations in a minute. So from here, we talked about segmentation and how valuable that is. With segmentation, you come in, you can create a segment. You choose the segment type. Manual is going to let you create a segment from a list. That's going to be static. It's never going to change. Static, it just creates a list of users at that point in time. And so the most common is a dynamic segment, which is going to update every day with the users that meet the criteria. So in this case, I wanted to view subscribers from Instagram. So I tag all of my ad links with UTM parameters so I can see, okay, show me all of the users where the UTM source was Instagram and the medium was CPC. If I wanted to do anything else, I can come in here. There's like literally any data about your users you can use within the custom fields. You can choose, or in segmentation, you can choose their location, how they were acquired, what page they came in on your website, the date they subscribed, their email address, their status. There's, literally near infinite number of ways in which you can use like attribute data with engagement data, unique opens, open rate. All of this data can be combined and sliced and diced and grouped and excluded and whatnot to create literally any kind of list that you might want to know about your kind of main audience. And so the benefits of segmentation are: one, you can use them in emails to either include or exclude from your main sends. The other part is you can also use them for data around performance. And so in this case, I wanted to track and keep track of my Instagram subscribers, the ones that I was paying for, so that I would know, are these users engaging with my newsletters at an appropriate, healthy rate? And so if they just come and sign up and I get like a 10% open rate, it means it's going to be a very low quality audience. I'm paying for junk. And so I wanted to make sure that I was not paying for junk. I can see that these are pretty reasonable metrics for this paid audience. Automations come into play. Like, we mentioned at the beginning, if you want to create a more extensive welcome series. So in this case, I think I just have a single step. No, I have two steps. I think the trigger and then the email. Trigger, email, then time delay. But basically, automations allow you to create journeys and automate those journeys really in an incredibly flexible way. In this case, I've created a welcome series where the trigger gets kicked off, or this automation is triggered when somebody signs up to my newsletter. And then when they are entered or trigger that step, they are immediately sent an email, which acts as my email welcome series. If I wanted to create a kind of more extensive series where somebody subscribes, they get an email right away, maybe they get an email the next day, then 3 days later, then 5 days later, then a week later, I could do all of that using things like time delays. I can filter and exclude users using some of these true-false flow control things about attributes about them. It's really kind of hard to put this feature into a box because it is so expansive. You can literally do whatever you want in terms of designing these experiences. And just to give you an idea of exactly what that means, if I come in here and create like a new one and just do a quick drop down of what we can do with this in terms of triggers. You can set triggers for when users sign up to your newsletter. If you're running lead magnets and you want to trigger an email when people submit their email to get that lead magnet, you can do that with an email submitted trigger. When people complete your survey, you can send them a thank you. If people respond to your poll, you can send them a message. This is used a lot of times when you're using like a satisfaction poll. Create a little satisfaction poll. People who respond positively, you can say, hey, just saw that you liked my recent post. Would you mind referring the newsletter to somebody that you might know? It's a nice little growth loop, little hack there. Referral actions. So somebody refers and somebody, does completes a referral of your newsletter to somebody else. You can send them a message. Somebody is removed or moves into a segment, you can trigger based on that. Somebody upgrades or downgrades from your paid program, paid subscriptions. And then kind of the king of all of these is they can be added by API. So if you are working with any tool out there that has an API or webhooks, you can integrate with beehiiv directly or through a tool like Maker Zapier. And truly, I mean, literally, that makes this feature infinitely customizable because it literally any tool out there, any action that users are taking through a tech-connected platform would be possible to design experiences around. So ecom, courses, what have you, can all be facilitated through automations. I mentioned polls just there for a second. I create these satisfaction surveys that I include in every send. So this helps me monitor whether people are liking the content, but you can see the poll questions and responses and like a histogram of the responses here. We can see the posts in which they've been used, or with the posts within which I've used this poll. This is a voting style poll, which means it doesn't have a right answer, but it's going to like basically collect people's responses. We also have a different type of poll called a trivia poll, where you can have multiple answers and then you can mark one as being the correct answer, and then people can try to answer to see which one, whether they get it right. And so in this case, you could like trigger some sort of automation. Like if they get the right answer, you could send them an email saying, hey, congratulations, maybe you win something. There's a bunch of really cool stuff you can do with that. The data from these is super flexible. You can like export, share it. If you share it and you go to something like Twitter or X, whatever we call it these days, you can just paste it and it kind of comes out like this Wordle style share. So like if you have, if you have a poll with some substantial results, it makes really, really great UGC for you to share on socials. It's completely unique content that you created yourself. Next in the audience section before we move on is surveys. So we've already seen how the survey works. I'll really quickly cover the interface. We have this very flexible form builder. It's going to take a second to load. Let's see. But very similar looking to the automations section, where you have like drag and drop and you can have the different components of the form. Why am I getting loading issues now? So my connection, hopefully it doesn't go back to the way it was. No. Oh, there it goes. It was working. I didn't have patience. But yeah, we'll try to jump in here one more time real quick and see if it responds. Sometimes it takes a second to show up. All right, I'm gonna let that reload. We'll move on here. So subscribe forms, say you have a third-party site, WordPress, Wix, whatever, you wanna put your, you wanna get subscribers from that site. You don't wanna mess with API or any kind of form tools. We actually have subscribe forms that you can just drop directly in your site with just a little bit of HTML so I can view it here. These are the different options. The slim embed is the most popular, but of course you can use any of these. They're just kind of different, they explain what each of these are, but it's just a little bit of code. All of these different web builder tools have like a HTML block that you can just copy and paste this into. And then you're collecting emails. Those are going to be added directly to your beehiiv site from any kind of website. Here we go. Here's the form builder. Just jumping in here real quick, you can see it looks very, very familiar compared to the automations tool. You would create your prompt, so whatever the question is. You choose your custom field, or you create the custom field that the answer is associated with, and then you can choose like the type of response. So whether it's multiple choice, whether it's like radio button so they can choose one, whether it's free response, there's a bunch of different options there, and we're constantly making improvements to this to make it more and more performant and more valuable for collecting flexible data. Cool. We got a few minutes left. I'm going to really quickly cover referral program. It's a way for you to generate a professional referral program. With just a couple clicks, you can set up different types of rewards and then the milestones for those rewards. So in this case, I have 4 different rewards set up. If somebody refers 1 user, they're going to get a free year of the premium version. If they refer 3 people, they're going to get a sticker. If they refer 10 people, they're going to get a hat. And if they refer 20 people, they get a tote bag. So if I jump into any of these, I can edit them, can show kind of what the name is. I just use this image for all 3, so it rotates through all 3 of them. But in the newsletter, each user who receives it, it's going to show that section that I showed you guys at the beginning where it's like, you have 0 referrals, you are 1 away from earning a free subscription. You have 1 referral, you are 2 away from earning a sticker, and so forth. But really, really neat way to grow basically for free and to get your users who are your best evangelists to share with their friends and family and whatnot. Recommendations, we showed how this worked in the beginning of the call, but this is where the interface is. You can see how many users you've referred to them. You can also see how many users they've referred back to you. You can add recommendations by searching our network here. So, I can go through and I can just see, I can either search by name. I can also search by these different content tags. So let's say life cycle. We could do travel. I'm pretty sure is one. Travel. Yeah, you could do travel, and it's going to show me different types of folks that are newsletters that are tagged with the travel tag, and I can even further search and filter from there. Magic links are a way for you to do cross collaboration with other platforms. So we integrate this tool with 14 other platforms. If you're doing like a shared drop where they say, hey, this post is brought to you in collaboration with newsletter, but this is on beehiiv. If you want to subscribe, click here. We integrate with the taxonomy of how they do dynamic fields for all of these different platforms. And so when the partner that you're working with puts this link into their editor, when they send it to the recipient's email, in this case, is going to be replaced with their real email. So what that results in is when they receive the email, all they have to do is click the link and they're going to be subscribed to the newsletter. So, basically reduces a bunch of the friction involved with like having to enter a newsletter and go to your page and everything like that. Really, really great way to do collaborative, drops and different promotions like that. And then we talked about boosts. We showed kind of those boosts showing up in the system. You can also promote your own offer where you can come in and say, I'm willing to pay X dollars for every user that gets referred to me. You can talk about who your target audience is. You can set up some quality control in terms of regions, performance, all of these different things that we allow you to kind of optimize around for performance and for quality. And you can put that offer out to the marketplace, and you'll start to have people basically apply to run that promotion or that recommendation. So you can pick only the ones that are going to be most relevant to you, the ones you think are going to perform the best and provide the most value to your audience. And then on the other side of things, when they start recommending and sending subscribers your way, that's not the end of it. We make sure that every subscriber that's referred to you is not just a real email and a real person, but we also monitor for patterns of spam and abuse. We also monitor for engagement. And so the punchline is when users start being referred to you, you only pay for users that are real, active, engaged, opening, reading, clicking, engaged parts of your list. And so it's really quite an incredible tool. It's like if you were advertising on Facebook, and for every dollar that didn't result in an active, engaged user in your newsletter, Zuck was like, hey, I'm going to give you your money back. That's basically what this is. And so really, really powerful growth tool. We have people that are using this to grow by hundreds and thousands of subscribers a month. On the other side of it, for monetization, we have people literally making tens of thousands of dollars. Maybe not tens of thousands. We have lots of people making thousands of dollars. I don't want to paint myself into a corner saying there's lots of users making tens of thousands, but I think it's possible. We get into that with the monetize side of things. It's just the other side. Our ad network, I showed you some of the ads within the editor, and then paid subscriptions here. I realized actually that I never got into the design section. We'll include resources like that about that because we have a couple minutes left. That's why I have some time left. But when we talk about design, um, it's a lot to get into. Oh, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony, for pointing that out. Just real quick before we kind of do the wrap up, we talked a lot about creating the design for your newsletter, and I messed up. I need to a little shame hat for the rest of the day. Forgot to actually go in and show you guys how to modify these settings. We have a very in-depth video that we will. Tony, if you would, could you drop that in the chat that goes through and shows all these features? But essentially, the long and the short of it is, this is a representation of, it's kind of a mock-up of your newsletter with all of the different features. So we have like body text, we have the content breaks, we have H1, H2, the byline, the heading, subtitle, logo up here. Basically, this is a mock-up of the design. And so the settings on the side all correspond to features that are set up within this design. So say I want to change the look of the button. I can see these buttons right here. I can come in here and, make this, rather than being this orange color, I can make them black. And so when I make that change, it's going to change the buttons to be black, and I can see exactly what it's going to look like when I publish my actual real newsletter. And so the different sections are pretty self-explanatory. The ones that I will cover is if you want to if you want your logo to be here at the top of every email, you can come in here into this miscellaneous section, upload your logo, and then set the logo width. You can add a logo link and whatnot, but that's going to add this logo to the top of all of your emails. We also have, if you're a developer, you can implement your own custom CSS right here, which will change the look and feel of your email when you send it out. The other kind of pro tip is in this email footer section. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can add this you can go to this custom content section, which is going to open up a separate editor, which allows you to add any kind of custom content, widgets and whatnot, to your footer. And so you can make this customized to your heart's desire. The important thing here is that this will be appended to the bottom of every email that gets sent. So you want to make sure that it's specific enough, or it's broad enough that it applies to every email. You don't want to put anything that's like referring to a specific part of your content. But other than that, I think everything else is like you see an element in here. It corresponds to one of the items here. We dropped the video that you could, basically see some of the design best practices. On YouTube, we also have some tutorials that go really in depth on how each of these features work. We're running right up on time, and I want to be respectful of people's time today. I will close before I give my thanks, by saying that if this was useful, this is the exact purpose of like why we have the Hive community here at beehiiv. And so in addition to the platform itself, we actually have a very active, almost 3,200 active beehiiv paying customers in our Slack community with like 15 to 20 different channels. I can do a quick, actually I don't have my Slack open, but basically, things like how to, tips around beehiiv. There's things about, provide feedback on my newsletter. How do I monetize better? Like the whole channel about monetization. Cross recommendations where you can find some of those cross promos. We really bring together these independent publishers who are using beehiiv to build their businesses and build their publications and newsletters. And we really make it feel much more, close, Ohana in a way. And so, you can really join that. And if you found this useful, the punchline is, I'm getting ahead of myself. The punchline is, if you found this helpful, the Hive is a great place to continue the conversation, really get that support and camaraderie and just kind of, connection and community that a lot of, publishers seek out. So it's really, really a very helpful place. Connor, thank you so much for spending your time with me today, answering some questions. I know I didn't use all that much today. So much to cover, so much to get through. But you were super helpful, and I'm sure everybody appreciated seeing your beautiful face. And for the people who can't see the other beautiful face we have with us, that's Tony. Let's give him a little round of applause. He's the eyes in the sky. He's like New York when it's like if you watch football, when they're like New York's, calling in a review, that's him. He's the mysterious eyes in the sky. So couldn't do it without him. And last but not least, we couldn't do it without all of you, including you who is watching this recording, not just the people who are here now, but you guys make it all so worth it. If you didn't show up, we would have no reason to do this. And so we're very, very pleased to have you here. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes. I think there's probably some questions either that were dropped in the Q&A or still in the chat. So if you do want to stick around to have your questions answered, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit longer. I just do want to let anybody who does want to jump not feel like they're missing anything. But yeah, I'm happy to stick around until questions are answered. Um, Tony, do we have any in the chat or in the Q&A that we should be aware of? Okay. Okay, cool. Then we should be good. And I don't see any popping up now. So thank you both of you, and thank you all of you in the audience. You guys are the best. Until next time, if you guys have any questions, ej@beehiiv.com. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on LinkedIn. I might not follow you or allow you to follow me on Instagram. I usually keep that a little bit more personal, but happy to connect. Wherever you may be able to find me online. But looking forward to it. And thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your business. Talk soon. Cool. We are no longer live. Thanks so much, Connor. Appreciate it.